Fantastic. We're going to have a great time.
I love it. Absolutely. Again, it's great to meet you. I appreciate you taking a minute out. And I would love to begin our conversation with kind of the elephant in the room globally. 4 years ago, this pandemic began, and it really sent ripples through the world. I'm curious how you survived that COVID period and how it changed you.
Oh, that's so interesting, Joe, because it was fundamental in regards to where I am today. I had a successful career on Wall Street for, gosh, almost 40 years, and had worked at some of the largest, most prestigious corporations in the world. Had also taken a private company public, and had experienced what that was like going from a private company to a public company. So I had an extensive amount of business experience. I was trained in business. I got my undergrad in accounting. I got my MBA from Northwestern in finance and economics. It was my world. And I retired. My youngest daughter graduated from high school, and I said, I love you girls. You're on your own. I'm going to where I want to live now instead of where you live. And they were with mom in Connecticut, and so I was committed to them, and I stayed in New York. But the moment that they were done, I went to my favorite state in this country, and I've been to 49 of the 50 states, Joe. So I've traveled throughout this country, and first of all, this is the most amazing place in the world. I've traveled all around the world multiple times. I love the United States. It is, the people are so great. They're so heartwarming. It's just, and it's a beautiful country. But my favorite state of them all is Colorado. I love the mountains. I have a connection to the mountains. Some people love the ocean or the lakes or the rivers. I find a deep spiritual connection being in the mountains of Colorado. So I moved to Breckenridge and retired, and did all the things that we're supposed to do when we retire. I played golf, and I skied, and I hiked, and I biked. And over a number of years, I found that I was kind of bored. I was, in my 60s and pretty bored. It was all good life, but I just wasn't as engaged. And then when the pandemic hit, it changed everything, because I saw how family businesses were being shuttered and being pushed aside and being destroyed by policy that, in my mind, didn't make a lot of sense. You see, Joe, I grew up in a family business. My father owned a small construction company, and anybody that's grown up in a family business knows that you're all in. Every single that business is a member of the family. It is a sibling, sometimes the favorite sibling. But that's a whole nother story. With that said, I knew that by closing those businesses, that people were going to be hurt, that people's savings, their dreams, their promises to their children, their commitment to their community, their sense of self and ability to succeed and value were all going to be jeopardized. And as things began to reopen, I didn't see any effort being made to re-engage small businesses in this country. They didn't seem to have a voice at the table. They didn't seem to have the support of not just the politicians, because politicians blow with the wind wherever the money is coming from, but from society in general. We seem to have sort of forgotten about them. And I felt that it was important for someone, and I grew up in a world in which someone meant me. If nobody else is stepping up, then it's time, and you think it's important, then step up. Take the reins. I didn't see anyone out there reminding people just how important small businesses are, that they really are the backbone of our country. That they really are the fabric of our community. Imagine walking down Main Street or any street in your neighborhood that has business shops on it, and they're all closed. it's a disaster for your community.
Yeah.
Imagine only being able to buy things from big box stores or having them delivered, and the service you get really isn't very good. The the commitment to the employees is virtually non-existent. They're viewed as nothing more than a cost center that, if possible, should and can be replaced. Um, and that's not a world that I want to live in, or that I want our children to live in, or that I think is healthy for our society in general. So I've started Get Looped, which is an advocacy group for small business owners. And I focus on two things. I focus on supporting small business owners. Small business owners need support. Okay. When you own your own business, it is a lonely path. There's not a lot of people you can talk with, particularly when things are going hard or when things are going sideways. And I'll be the first to admit that many small business owners, when things go sideways, it's because of their own shenanigans. And the only way that I've found to correct the ship is to get help.
Yeah.
We rarely fix it ourselves. And when things are going rough, you rarely have someone that you can talk with. It's hard to talk to your spouse. It's most certainly difficult to talk to your peers or friends about your failings or about the trouble you're experiencing. So I've offered my services as someone who understands business extensively, as someone who understands human frailties extensively, to be able to reach out and say, hey, you can talk with me and let's figure out how we can fix the ship. Not just in regards to the business aspects, but in regards to the personal aspects. Because most small business people that I work with have been in business for a number of years. They have a successful business, but things are going a little sideways, and they need to sort of get their bearings straight. And so I help in that area. And then the other is in regards to informing the public that it's so important for them to commit to their neighborhood businesses. Sure, it might be more convenient to be able to shop online and have it delivered to your door. Might even be cheaper. But what's what are you giving up in regards to that convenience or savings?
Yeah.
You're giving up the family that's supporting your parks. You're giving up the family that is making sure that the sidewalks are clean in front of their store. You're giving up the family that knows your name and what you're looking for when you walk in the store. All of those have such value beyond the 5 or 10% premium charge that it might cost in regards to the dollar amount of the product. So I want to remind people, hey, our economic choices, our dollar decisions make a difference. So make a difference.
My dad used to always tell me of all of the things that he had to kind of struggle through his life with, making ends meet and all of that. He used to always tell me, whatever you do, hire somebody that's in your community to do work, whether it's plumbing or whatever it is, go to your community and do that. It's funny. I think about your story, and my stepdaughter just turned 18, and we were waiting at an amusement park, and I just turned 51 a month before, and we're waiting at an amusement park at a ride called the Time Traveler, and she just kind of looked up at me and she said, "What have you realized after all of this time?" And I said, "I realized that life is a full circle event. No matter what you think that you got away from, you're going to come back to it and you're going to address it." And it looks like that's what you've done with your life. You had the capital, you had the freedom, you had the satisfaction of a good career and raising your kids, but you decided to come back to where it all began. And I find that always refreshing and very symbolic of our human march down here.
I would agree, Joe. There's so many things come to mind. You can run, but you cannot hide.
Right.
And that particularly means your past.
Yes, it does.
I mean, Joe, there's so many memories that I have of growing up with my father, who was a hardworking man, and he was a hard man. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He came up in the era. He was a do's and don'ts kind of guy. He didn't go to college. He worked hard. He was physical. So, corporal punishment was something quite common in our household. And I'm glad that it's not common anymore.
Yeah.
Corporal punishment, in my experience,
Yeah.
didn't work with me. I didn't like it. I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Not knowing better, when I first had young children, my two oldest daughters were acting up. And I was like, well, they deserve a spanking. You ever given a spanking, Joe? It is the worst experience in
Yeah.
the entire world. It's horrible. I spanked them once in my entire life, and I was like, never again. That is absolutely crazy. I've never felt worse as a human being as until after that experience. And so, I'm not an advocate for corporal punishment in any stretch of the world,
Yeah.
but I am an advocate for establishing boundaries, values, priorities. And in circling back to the story about my father, when I being part of the family business, and whenever I wasn't in school, we would I would be working at the family business. And in the construction industry, that means getting up at 4 in the morning and going to the local diner, meeting all the other business owners that were in town, and really being part of that community. So important. In fact, that's where so many of his referrals came from. That's where so much of his business came from, was making the effort to establish community with the other people within town. I can't emphasize enough. When I talk to business owners about how do they get business, I go, literally a person at a time, building relationships. How am I going to compete against the big box stores? By providing services that they can't. And that means customer relationships. That means knowing your customer. That means building rapport. And that takes, going out and spending time with people. Anyways, I'm in the car with my father that morning, and he looks tired. And I was in high school, and I was just amazed that, here we are, 4 o'clock in the morning yet again. And I looked over at him. I was like, Dad, how do you do this every day? How do you get up every single day and do this? And his answer that morning was so disheartening, because he said, what else am I going to do? And I've heard this answer from so many business owners after the pandemic. They're tired, they're burnt out, they don't feel valued, they don't feel like they're getting a break, they don't feel like they're being heard. And I think it's so important to acknowledge the challenges that they're having and to support them, not just financially, but emotionally. We have this small business celebration day. How sad. How, how sad. A day, a day for the
Yeah.
people that hold up our economy, that do everything they possibly can to participate in making the world a better place. No, I think it should be small business celebration every day.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the work they do. So that's what I'm trying to do in creating the services that I do.
So you came out of retirement, you've been at it, you've been successful in your life. Let me give you that question that you gave your father in the car. What is the drive every day for you to get up and to succeed and to evolve as a human being? What is that ultimate drive for you?
So people generally come to me when they're in trouble, and to watch people evolve and rebuild their lives, because I've had to do that. I've gone through addiction issues, and I've gone through financial issues. I made my first $1 million when I was 28, and I lost all my money when I was 37. And then I remade it again. And it's super hard. when you're feeling all alone. So to be able to help someone and watch them um, come back alive, because when you're at the bottom, it really is a lonely, hard spot. And to watch someone rebuild their lives and be able to help them to do that, I've never experienced anything more rewarding. It's really an incredible thing.
So, in all of the successes that you've been through and all of the things, the ups and downs that you've been through, as a professional, aside from family, what are you the proudest of?
Um, so besides family, okay, I'm actually I'm actually proudest of the fact that I'm a continual learner. Okay, that I value knowledge, that I value curiosity, that I value adventure. In fact, one of the exercises that I do here, I'll show you real quick. I have a little poster here. These
Yeah,
are my values. These are the things that are important to me. I've gone through an exercise and I work with people to do this. What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? What brings you and value to your life? And some of the ones that I've identified are knowledge, fun, adventure, curiosity, integrity, service. I've gone through my life and have taken the time, and most people don't take the time to, it's like, what brings you fun? And they're like, oh, a round of golf. Let's dig a little deeper on that.
yeah,
Okay. Oh, it might be around the golf, but why?
yeah,
Oh, it's because you get to spend 4 uninterrupted hours in companionship with people that you love and care for. Oh, it's because you're outdoors in some of the most beautiful environments, and it brings you a spiritual connection to nature. Oh, so that's kind of why. Why don't we, if that's actually true, why don't we put ourselves in a situation in which you nurture that, in which you feed that, in which you create that? Because we have the ability, we're amazing creatures as humans. We have the ability to create the world that we want. Most people just A, don't know the world they want. They're simply in reaction mode. And B, don't take the effort to structure all the things that bring you joy. Most people are going through life unconscious. They're stuck to their phone, going through TikTok or Facebook or whatever, and simply in reaction mode. They're dealing with their kids, with their crisis, with their work, with their whatever's going on. And when you actually know what brings you joy, first of all, it's really easy to make decisions. Should I do X or should I do Y? Oh, X doesn't help me. Y does. It's it's funny. It sounds easy, but it takes practice.
yeah.
Okay? Because we're used to just doing the easy things. Because Y sometimes takes work, like health. Okay? I go and work out regularly. Do I always want to go and work out? Hell no. But I swear there's rarely a time that I've done it that when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, right. I know. I know.
So when you get into the practice of first of all knowing what brings you joy, happiness, fulfillment, and then actually into the discipline, and it's easier, again, habits are something that you can create. It's not something that you have to get rid of. It's something that you nurture.
Yeah,
Um, and they feed you.
yeah,
So when you start getting into those choices that bring you joy, life opens up in ways that you can't even imagine. So, knowledge to me, I'm proud of the fact that I read every single day. I'm proud of the fact that I spend time trying to develop a sense of understanding and knowledge of people, places, and things around me.
absolutely. You know what jumps out on that list there? I, in my other incarnation, I'm a jazz radio host. So I interview musicians from Sonny Rollins all the way down to local cats here in Kansas City. And anytime I ask them why they love jazz, their number one answer through everybody, the thousands that I've interviewed, freedom. And I see that on there, and people think about that. They think about that as the tapestry of our democracy, the right that we have to do and say what we want to. But there's so much more to that. And it goes into what you're saying, which is you've been all over the world and you've had enough of a measuring stick to say the mountains in Colorado is your place. And that right there, that's the ultimate form of freedom because you're not coming into it saying, well, I've seen pictures in a book. You've been there, you've tasted the air, you've seen the people. So your level of acumen of culture and empathy and people has to be relatively, actually quite high because you've seen all that. So my question to you is, what have you learned from being around all these different people on the planet? What kind of emotional intelligence have you grabbed onto throughout all these years of seeing different people and the way that they live their lives?
Unfortunately, so many, as I had mentioned, so many people go through life unconsciously, and I'm guilty of it myself. And it's usually some level of crisis, a death, an illness, a financial situation that jars us into a different course. That's your wake up call. Now, how some people respond to that clarion call of wake up. Um, some people just want to get through it, survive, and go back to being unconscious. In fact, the majority. Unfortunately, I found that the vast majority of people really are very disinterested in living a full life. Um, However, we have 360 million people in this country. 10% of the people are alive and interesting and engaged and committed. That's 36 million people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
So, so find your tribe. There's so many people out there that, if there's a person in your life that is, that's poison, they, I'm sorry, they've got to go. It's really true. If you want to know what your life is like, look at the 5 closest people in your lives. You are a part of that pack. That is your tribe. Um, is that the tribe you want to be? And uh, one of the joys of exploring and interacting with people who are alive, um, is that you learn from them and you expand your tribe.
yeah,
I've the people that are alive are the most amazing experiences you can have. You can learn so much from them. I think people are freaking incredible.
yeah,
They're just amazing. And then there's the super high performers. I mean, professional athletes, you know, we were talking about the Chiefs before we started the podcast and how fun it is to be in Kansas City. To perform at that level, it's not a coincidence. It's it is such a high level of commitment. So when I come across people that are like that, and it doesn't matter if it's in academics or in physics or in medicine or in volunteer work, there are people that are ripping it, and when you come around them, they're contagious. It's just amazing.
yeah,
So I like being one of those people.
yeah,
I want people to hang around me. I want to, because I get to share more with them.
yeah,
It's not like it's an energy drain. It's like fusion. It's like getting more from others that are, and it's an infinite kind of prosperous scenario. Actually, reminds me, here's a plug. This is
yes,
my book, The
yes, sir.
Prosperity Loop.
Yeah,
And notice that the loop is infinity,
infinity.
infinity sign of human beings.
Yeah,
Okay. So the prosperity loop is how to create a business in which you're constantly building energy with your interaction with other human beings. When your work is a energy creation device instead of an energy draining device, most small business people, when they come to see me, sit out in their car 30 minutes before they go into work. Wake up, hit the clock, sigh deeply, and are thinking about all the problems that they have to deal with that day. Oof, I'm tired. I'm tired and beat up just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's common. I, how do you get from there to my life's amazing?
Yeah.
And again, the reason I can say this is one, I study it. Two, I lived it. Okay. I was bottom of the bottom for a period of time. I was a meth addict in New York City. I was unemployable. I was it was a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, how do you get there? A step at a time.
Yeah.
It's not a fast slide, it's a slow slide. And then all of a sudden you find yourself there and then you're stuck. And that's how most people's lives are. They slowly find themselves in a situation and now they don't know how to get out.
Yeah.
And that's why, whether it's me or anyone, you have to find someone that can help you because it's no professional athlete at the highest levels and no one at the lowest levels either does it by themselves. We all need help. And the sooner that you can say, okay, I'm actually grateful that someone's willing to help me, all you have to do is ask. People are so generous. People are so generous.
I when I got out of corporate America years ago, I was in my 20s and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I was always interested in the nonprofit sector. And I went and started working for the United Way. And I remember hearing a stat at the time that the people that give the most are the people that don't have the money. And it's a testament to what you just said. There's so many things that happen from people that understand where they're at. And one thing I do want to bring up about the one thing about the human spirit that always fascinates me is I went to a show about 2 weeks ago, and it was a blind pianist by the name of Matthew Whitaker, and he's a prodigy. He's like Stevie Wonder. I've never seen a musician that embodied that level of talent. Like he had a Hammond B3 behind him, a piano in front of him, an electronic piano on top. He's shouting, he's into it. But the thing that was so inspiring about him is that he was light. He was positivity. He just kept saying, "We're going to have fun. How you guys doing out there? Stand up, do what you do." People were crying, they were jumping up. But the thing about it is that he was impenetrable. When I left that show and I'd interviewed him and I met him afterwards, he's been on 60 Minutes. He's a big deal. But the thing about him is he is a cellular elemental guy that feels the happiness of being alive. And people would look at him and say, well, you can't see, you can't do this, you can't do that. All he thinks is can. The most important word that John Coltrane ever said that he ever loved in his life was the word yes. And when people do embrace that reality, because it's hard to do, it's hard to like envelop that. And that's what you're saying about human beings. There's so many amazing things from everybody from the top on down. And the fact that we can look at an airplane fly over our city or know that we've taken a rocket into space, that's mind blowing, man. I mean, it's crazy.
Mind blowing. It's crazy.
The whole
And
thing.
I hear people like, well, that's not me. It's not you today.
Right.
Okay. And so here's a great example. I meditate every morning. Okay. I meditate every morning. I didn't start out with a 20-minute meditation every morning. I meditate, I journal, I pray every morning. I didn't start out that way. I started with a 5-minute guided meditation from an app, laying in bed and hating it, going, so and so told me that I need to do this to get better. Okay. Step by step by step. You don't start out world class. Okay. The artist that you're talking about, he didn't he didn't start out with all that talent. Okay. And I'll guarantee you there were many piano lesson days that he didn't want to do it. There were many practice days he didn't want to do it. But, you anticipate the benefit, you do the work, a little bit every day, a little bit more, a little bit more, and then bad habits become good habits. Now if I wake up automatically in the morning and feel positive and want to go and start my day right. In fact, it just doesn't feel right without it, because I've nurtured and created that habit. Similar to exercising, similar to a pro athlete going and working with his coaches and creating his craft. If you want to change your life, the blessing and the curse is you can do it.
True. Totally true. So let me ask you this. Everybody has a perception of you out there in the world. You've met all kinds of different people and you've been everywhere. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, readers, but you're running the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's so interesting. So I get to meet so many interesting, amazing people. So I'm always humbled by the talents of others. Um, I feel like I'm just trying to keep up, and do what I can do. And as long as I'm doing the best that I can do, I feel pretty good about myself. To be quite frank, when I'm feeling pretty full of myself, it's time for me to take a look in the mirror. Um, because I come from a world after being on Wall Street. I, I I bought into that whole package of go to the biggest and best schools, get the biggest and best job, make as much money as you can, get the biggest title you possibly can, get the house, go to the schools, join the club. I went down that road. I sw- the when I've never been more miserable than when I was following that pathway. Um, so it's not about it's not about my ego and how I feel about myself. It really isn't. It's more about how can I be of service? How am I helping others? Am I having fun today? That's a question I ask myself a lot. Am I having fun?
Yeah.
Um, and if the answer is yes, then I'm like, okay, things are good.
So we did do some true improv here, Chris. We went down our own path. So I want to ask, we did, man. We ripped it out. We took we took the chaos of the world and made it into a cohesive whole. So what I want to ask of you is if anyone wants to pick up your book, they want to learn more about what you're doing for small businesses, any of the good business about your world, where's the best place to go?
Thank you, Joe, for that opportunity. So
Yes, sir.
everything's at my website, which is www.get-looped.com. That's GET-LOOPED. And we have a number of things. I'm a professional speaker, so I like to give speeches. I love to perform for audiences and talking about the value and importance of small businesses. I do seminars for small business companies to talk about the importance and how to identify what your values are. We're having a small business golf outing celebration on August 12th in Waukegan, Illinois. If you're in the Illinois area, please come join us because it's going to be 100 small business owners and we're all going to play golf. We're going to, lots of cash and prizes, lots of fun. And if there's anything else that I can do to be of service, please feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Just you exuding who you are, man. That's been enough for me. I thank you for your story. I thank you for your heart and soul, and keep spreading the good light out there, man.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate being a guest on your podcast. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.